In episode 4.4 of Unshuffled, we examine the fourth album from Swedish band Ghost, Prequelle, released in 2018. But first, here's our awesome intro music from Seven Planets. Scotty D.
Cardinal Harris the third.
That'll do. I want to start today's podcast with a question to you. The album we're looking at today, Prequelle by Ghost, is supposedly, arguably loosely based around the concept of the bubonic plague or the Black Death. My question to you is this. Sure, it's interesting to study history, but what possible relevance could an album about a global pandemic have in these modern times?
So it's funny you bring this up because, and we're going to talk about this in the song notes. But as I was listening the first track comes up, I'm like, wait a minute. This is the version of Ring Around the Rosie that I've always heard about but haven't actually heard, right? And then it moves into Rats. I remember a few minutes into Rats, I was kind of grooving on whatever the opening, and then this moment of, oh, for the love of, is this an album about a global pandemic? Just having this moment of, I can't deal with this right now.
Yeah. Good timing. 2018.
I know. You know what, though? I just finished, right before I started listening to this, I finished reading this book called Leave the World Behind, also written in 2018 about potential global pandemic. But like about this family, like living it in real time and just sort of starting to be fed information. They live up in the mountains anyway. So I was reading that book, listening to this album. I was like fictionalizing global pandemics while masking up to go get milk. So it was the two worlds converged.
Yeah. Haven't they just?
I will say though, and I'm knocking on wood here. I don't want to, but the global pandemic we're living was easier to swallow than the global pandemics of the two fictional worlds I was dealing with.
Maybe pop a link to that book in the show notes.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Check it out.
You have to read it. So good.
Okay,
so
great.
Good. Yeah.
Scott, your honourable duties each week involve taking us through the details of the album, the date it was released, the label, and the various credits. Now, before you get into that, I'll just point the listeners to a link from our show notes to a site called gear4geeks.co.uk, which has put together an ultimate guide on this particular album, which has a lot of this information, which you might like to go and have a look at. But, for completeness sake, we'll go through the key details of the album now. But, there is an excellent guide to the nuts and bolts of this album there if you want to follow that too. All right, Scott, take it away.
Released on June 1st, 2018. Produced by, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but Tom Dalgetti.
That'll do.
Okay. Who also was known for producing The Pixies and Royal Blood. All right, so it was recorded at, it looks like 3 studios, Artery Studios in Sweden, Stockholm, Psalm Studios in Bath, and then Westlake in LA. So the lineup. I know that you're not a fan of this part, but we have the lineup has a story. The Papa Emeritus, that line has paused, right? Not ended. It's coming back for the next one, as we understand. And so the new Pope is Papa Nihil. I don't know. And he plays the saxophone. We've got ourselves a sax player. And
saxophone.
And Tobias Forge here has taken on the role of Cardinal Copia. And then we've got our group of nameless ghouls. So yeah, and then in the songwriters, I mean, this album is just it's knee deep in songwriters. There's like 12 of them. It's like a Lady Gaga album.
Yeah, you're right. And the big event, of course, that took place between the previous album and this one was the lawsuit from the previous Nameless Ghouls. And now we've got a whole new bunch of Nameless Ghouls. Now, that lawsuit was ultimately unsuccessful, I believe. I don't think they got what they were looking for, and they ended up having to pay legal costs and all the rest. There was one key songwriter who wrote some of my favourite songs off the last 2 albums. His name's just escaped me for a moment.
Martin Persner.
That's right. So he wasn't involved in the lawsuit. Obviously, though, he is no longer a Nameless Ghoul and he's no longer a songwriter. So that was my biggest question. I felt like, just reading his role in writing the songs, I felt like of all the Nameless Ghouls, he was the one that Tobias had the closest relationship with, and that was kind of confirmed by the fact that he wasn't involved in the lawsuit. So my biggest question mark was not just what impact did that lawsuit and the complete sort of change of musicians that are behind Tobias, but particularly what did the loss of Mr. Persner, what effect did that have on Tobias and his songwriting and the songs in general?
My initial thought, so that was mine going in as well. And my initial thought, I think when I heard this, my initial thought was just kind of, I wasn't that keen on the first listen. I think, I don't know, who knows, whatever. It has since grown on me, and it's now the time. We've been on this for 3 weeks now, give or take, and there are songs that I'm ready to hear, and I'm excited that they're coming up, and it's grown on me.
Yeah, good. I think that's the nice thing about what we're doing, and it's kind of, I've spoken about it a couple of times in previous podcasts, but the fact that we do it this way, and sometimes you get an album that doesn't instantly grab you, but just as you used to do when you fork out your $20 for an album and that was your album for the next few weeks, that's the one you listen to. And it gives it a chance to grow. I agree. There are songs on this that grew on me as well. I'll save any further thoughts for after we've done the track by track. Before we do that, though, we must, of course, mention the artwork.
So we're on the same, it's been the same fella, right?
Yeah, it's Big New.
Yeah. And do you want to talk through that a little bit?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I got my information from that Gear for Geeks webpage, which has a nice little summary of the artwork. All of the previous covers have been in some way homage. So the last one, Meliora, was perhaps the least homage. It was, I'm not even sure we mentioned it on the podcast, but that was very reminiscent of the 1920s sci-fi film Metropolis. And they also borrowed from that 20s vibe in a couple of their film clips as well. Previous to that were much more obvious, the influences that we spoke of. Salem's Lot on the first one. And we had, in the second one, we had the film poster for Amadeus from the 80s. This one is another homage. This one is to a famous portrait, arguably the most famous portrait of all time, a painting by Diego Velázquez of Pope Innocent X. And again, just Google that if you're interested. But the same red robe. It's a mirror image, so he's facing a different way, and obviously the face is different. He's replaced it with a sort of, more ghosty type figure. He's sitting atop the giant heads of some rats, and there's a big Gothic cathedral behind him. So there are some other influences as well, but that central part is a homage to that famous portrait. Again, I would like to see a little more originality. I don't mind the whole homage thing, but to me, okay, I mean, all art is influenced by other art. I get that, but I just would prefer to see a little more originality in the artwork. He's obviously a great, very talented artist. So I'd like to just see his own stuff rather than his reinterpretation of famous other images. On the back cover, I've got the physical. This is the digi sleeve, unfortunately, but the back cover is a really nice, what they call a triptych. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll hold it up for you here, Scott. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. With some sort of, again, some ghosty figures and a little bit of that dance macabre. So those sort of death masks in the painting. And we get the lyrics. Even though it's a digi sleeve, we get very small, but lyrics nonetheless, which makes me happy. And a whole list of credits and, all the rest. So, digi sleeve isn't great. I'd love to see the vinyl for this. I'm sure it'd be better, but the artwork's interesting, but just a little too homage-y for my taste.
Yeah. You neglected Hellmouth. I'm just looking at I'm looking at the same site you're looking at.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and there's the old timey drawing of it, which from 15th century.
Yeah. Go to the Gear for Geeks page, listener, and that will explain it all. But yeah, very cool, that Hellmouth thing. So it's kind of smished two famous paintings together.
The 15th century version, that kind of looks like Castle Grayskull. Do you think that one's an homage to He-Man?
I don't know. Maybe Cardinal Copia is a homage to Skeletor. There's too many homages already in this podcast. Let's move on.
All right. Do you want to start us off with the track by track?
Let's get into it. Well, the first one's just an opener. I mean, it's not really a song. And you already mentioned it. This is Tobias's daughter, I believe. I think she's around 10 years old when this was recorded. Maybe a little bit older, but she's singing Ring a Rosie, which is a song that has become associated with the Black Plague. The urban myth or the urban legend says that this song came out of that time. I don't think it's true. That Snopes is a good reference on this sort of stuff. Whenever you hear something like that, I mean, I think it's still Snopes anyway, but it's still online. So yeah, I don't think it actually came from that time, but you hear that song and you think plague, with a tissue, we all fall down. They've had atmospheric openers on all of their albums, and this is another one. There's a little bit of guitar and synth and some foreboding drums, but not much else musically. The highlight here is the eerie singing of a child. Why is a child singing so eerie? It's it's something that occurs in horror films quite a lot, but there's something sort of eerie about a lone child's voice singing something that has such a dark connotation. So an effective opener. Did you like Ashes?
Well, I was glad it was short. Yep. I mean, it set the mood. I mean, and I mean that. I'm not trying to be. I mean that. I was glad that they just sort of trickled that out there a little bit. Gave you just a little taste of this is where this is going, and here's just kind of a mood setter like we always give you. And it was just a little taste of it, and then they kick off into the album.
Yep.
I think it was well done, which takes us into the second track, which Rats kind of sounded like Rat, right? The very beginning it reminded me of not necessarily Round and Round or something, but something that totally could have been on Out of the Cellar. It sort of had that 80s hair metal kind of feel to it. And there's an effect on I'm noticing that the singing is getting better with each album, right? I mean, if we were to compare this to go back to the first album, but now there's some sort of effect on his voice that I don't know that I recall from previous albums. And I can't tell if they're like doubling his voice or if it's some sort of weird effect. But then, and this is where I had kind of already talked about this. This was sort of as I was listening to the song, had this moment of, oh yeah, we're we're doing this, right? We're gonna do an album about a global pandemic. And it was all right. I'll hang in there. Let's see what we got. And I think this was also the first single. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you seen the film clip?
Yes.
Yeah. In the diner.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked the film clip. It's
got some funky dance moves.
It's got some funky dance moves. He's got some funky dance moves.
He sure does.
I like the song. It's not. I don't know if it is one of my favorites, but I do like it.
Yeah, I like the song too. Classic Ghost, really. I mean, it's got all those Ghost elements. The big riff. I quite like that electro effect on the vocals that you mentioned. It gave it a real 80s feel. I'll come back to the 80s again and again through this album. I think the 80s was a major touchstone on many of the songs on this album. We spoke about some of the 70s influences on the previous one and on Opus Eponymous. We had 80s influences on their second album, Infestissimum. I think we're back to more 80s influences on this one here. But yeah, we've got the synth. You mentioned the vocals, a big chorus with the rolling of the R's, the rats. Whoa, real sing-along sort of chorus, a bit different than, the chorus is just one word, really. I love the finish. There's a really heavy last few bars of this song. It's a really good finish to the song. Big tick on production here, faultless production, as you'd expect from Ghost. They're playing in the big leagues now in terms of production, producers, mixers, all that sort of stuff. So, again, can't fault the production. Classic Ghost. All those elements are there, beautifully balanced. All the instruments are audible and nothing dominates. So, yeah, I mean, this is the plague song on the album. I'm not sure that I wouldn't call this certainly wouldn't call it a concept album. This is the one song that is obviously and literally and directly about the plague. I'm not sure that there are many others on the album, but a really good song to open things up, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next song is called Faith. Now, this falls into the category of one of my favorite type of songs you can get. A heavy, mid-tempo stomp. The archetypical mid-tempo stomp, as far as I'm concerned, is Sad But True by Metallica. And I did hear a shout out in one of the reviews. They recognized the link between this and Sad But True. There's a huge riff, and they have that in common. They didn't recognize the thing that linked those two songs inextricably. And I've mentioned previously, why don't more metal albums have a choir? That Ghost made me think that after their second album. Well, this one made me think, why don't more heavy metal songs have this? And I've got a prop. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you see that?
Yes. Got yourself a shaker.
Every preschool music teacher or primary school music teacher has one of those, or a whole batch of those in their box of goodies. The egg shaker. Now, Sad But True has an egg shaker, I'm sure. I've never heard Bob Rock talk about it, but if you listen closely, there's an egg shaker in there, and there's an egg shaker in this, and it just gives it that little bit of swing, and that it complements that massive metal riff so beautifully. Great lyrics in this song. The first verse. Now, clearly, this is about the court case, right? I've been scouring the sort of, the forums. I've heard different theories of. One person said this was about Trump. It's not about the court case. It's about Trump. No, this is about the court case, surely. And I love just that first verse is as metal as it gets. There is a scourge in the guise of sanctity, a perpetrator with a quill. This is the language of heavy metal. This is heavy metal to a T. We've been listening. Those of us that have grown up with heavy metal have been listening to lyrics like this for decades, and it really rings it strikes a chord with you when you hear that sort of language. That's metal, a scourge in the guise of sanctity. And later on, he talks about a pack of fools can take the stand. Obviously, I think he's talking about the people that tried to sue him there. So great lyrics, especially in that first verse. Love the riff, the production, the shaker. I've got some big calls to make about this song. Firstly, this is my favorite song on the album. Okay, that's not that big a call. But here's my big call. This is the best Ghost song that I've heard. This is my favorite Ghost song. I love this song. It's great. I love a mid-tempo stomp. I love it. It's done so well. And this is a great heavy metal song. And this is, I could listen to this all day, this song. It's great. What are your thoughts?
So I feel like I always come into these things with like 2 or 3 songs that are potentially my favorite, and I haven't yet decided. This is one of them. I've got 2 on this one, and this was one of them. You're saying, and the sad but true, I totally hear it now. There was the guitar sound though. There was this real 80s guitar sound, and I was just like, what was this pulling me back to? And I kept feeling like Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
And so it pulled me also back to Metallica, but I guess I was thinking a little earlier. It's got that, going back to the 80s, that synth sound. Again, the effects are on the voice, or maybe it's doubled. I don't know what they did. It's just a good, and you've said it already, it's just a good, straightforward metal song that's not afraid to just rock. It's got that speedy guitar coming at you, and it's just got that chugging riff behind it and driving it. And so, I'm in total agreement. This is one of my favorite songs. The other one of my favorite songs comes up right after it, and that's See the Light, track 4.
Huh?
Which I think if you're saying that, so from what I've seen, if Faith is, these 2 songs together could be about this court case, right? There's the argument, I've seen it also, that this song is also potentially about that as well. It's much more synth and piano driven. And this song, we really, like the piano really kind of deserves a shout out. And I think I'm going to find a way for him in my Brownlow. But this song really kind of, the piano really gets going on. I really like the melody of the song. I like it plays with the dynamics again, as he's done before. It's interweaving sort of this quiet sound with this soaring melody that comes crashing in. I like this song as well.
Yeah, so here we've got the ballad. We were due for the ballad. Previous album happened around, was around this point on the album, I think. Maybe I think it was about this point on the album. Unlike this is a classic power ballad with that big chorus that you mentioned. And I agree with everything you said. The piano, I quite like the bass lines on this too. There's some nice bass lines sitting underneath throughout this, and again, that lovely balance in the mix where you can pick up every instrument perfectly. Again, those Ghost elements, that's sort of choral, the choir-y, synthy thing that we heard a lot on the last album is back here. So, I like this too. It's a classic, again, 80s style power ballad. You can think of bands like, I don't know, I guess Foreigner or Cheap Trick or any of those big, the power ballad merchants of the 80s. There's touchstones here. The only thing I'll say against it is that the R rolling is becoming a little bit distracting at this point. The rats, many a rat. I mean, I could handle it on the song Rats, but and Drink Me, is he's starting to sound a bit like the Count out of Sesame Street at times. I don't mind it as a little bit of fun now and then, but I think at some point it becomes distracting, and this is where it became distracting for me. But anyway, a good song nonetheless. After this, we had an instrumental. This one's called Miasma. One of the reviews I read mentioned a link between this and a classic TV show that, well, it came from a book that I used to watch as a kid called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In that show, they took an instrumental by the Eagles called The Journey of the Sorcerer, which was a very banjo. You play the banjo, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But the Eagles had a song called "The Journey of the Sorcerer,"
Yeah,
played on
with the
banjo.
Yes. Please look it up. Please.
Okay.
If you're not leading into the next podcast with The Journey of the Sorcerer on the banjo, there's something wrong. But that was redone by an English electronic musician called Tim Suster. And that synth sound that he had in the TV show and in that TV theme is very reminiscent of this. And again, it's that early 80s nostalgia that it's sort of, triggering for me here. That took me back to the intro to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was a very nice memory of me. And it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time that feeling of nostalgia comes to me from this album. It's quite a proggy song, it sort of meanders away. There's a few different elements in this, including some tambourine slaps, the bells of the tambourine. The percussion throughout this is quite interesting, some of the different elements they bring. I've already spoken about the egg shaker. Here we get tambourine. That synth sound is incredible. I haven't heard anything like it for, nearly 40 years, but was great. And then, of course, at the end we get, who was it? Papa someone
Papa
on the saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did cover the Eurythmics on the Popestar EP that we spoke about on the last podcast. So I'm guessing maybe that sort of influenced that decision to bring in a saxophone here. I thought the saxophone was going to play a bigger role than it did, but I like its little cameo here, and it closes out. I'm assuming this closes out side one, and I really like this instrumental. It ends what I thought was a very good side. I thought this was an excellent first half of the album. Interested to get your thoughts on the instrumental.
The synth sound, it kept drawing me back to the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas album.
I'm not familiar.
What I kept thinking. You look that one up.
Yeah, can you link to that?
So, all right. Hear me out. This is all right. So my take on this song and Dance Macabre are they're gonna seamlessly come together. You gotta follow me through on this.
All right, please.
Here's the scene. 1984-85, kid moves to small town Indiana. Right? Music is banned by the town clergy, but he's attracted to the deacon's daughter. But she's promised to Steve, and Steve's like the quarterback, and he's the church's leading Bible pusher. Anyway, Miasma is the training montage where our hero learns to play music. Right? He's learning to play guitar, and he's going to play it at like the church function, and so the talent show or something. Anyway, so Steve's. He finally, as the montage goes on, he learns to play the guitar. He's at the talent show, and the scene melds to the show where Steve's playing and he's performing, and the town's gasping. Right? They're slightly amazed, they're slightly horrified, and then the town geek, Poindexter, we'll call him. He comes out and he's got like his trademark pork pie hat, yeah, and he all of a sudden busts out the sax, and at the moment he starts playing the sax, the hat flies off, and it reveals like this red mohawk. The town goes wild. Our heroes save the town. He saved music, right? So that's that moment, and then it takes us to Dance Macabre, which is the song playing over the closing credits. It's where everyone's dressed in like that slightly risque 80s kind of leotard, weird high-rise thing. And they're all dancing, but in that sort of very 80s way. And the town is just finally it's all given itself to Steve and Poindexter and the magic of music. And it was all done through the montage of Miasma and then the closing credits of Dance Macabre. I see the whole thing in my head. I've got a vision for how this whole thing plays out.
I never knew this side of you. You've got a calling both not only as a music podcaster but as a scriptwriter by the sound of it. I love it.
I enjoy both songs, by the way.
So Dance Macabre you liked?
Yeah, I did like it. I didn't at first. I will say that the first time I heard this song before we ever even started this album, I think this was the Ghost song I had heard before we had ever, and I remember being slightly apprehensive about this, thinking, well, I don't know about this. I like it. I like where it sits. I like if it does in fact start track 2.
Side 2.
Side 2. I think I like how it fits.
I didn't think when we started this podcast that we'd be talking about the influence of Irene Cara on the music we were listening to. But we definitely have that here. This is somewhere between What a Feeling and Fame.
Right. Or Footloose, which I was.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess whatever it is, it's 80s, right? I mean, and again, it's that big nostalgia trip. There's a massive feeling of nostalgia listening to this, and it takes you back. I kind of wish I had a time machine. I always wish every day I wish I had a time machine, but one of the things I would do would be to take this song back in some form. I guess I'd have to put it on a cassette and go to every party I ever went to in my late teens and early to mid 20s, and just about 1 a.m. just put this song on and just watch the dance floor erupt. This is a great party song, I think. The reviews, I've read one review that called this a banger. And you know when you hear a word for the first time that you've never really heard, I mean, I've heard the word banger, but I've never heard it used to describe music. But often when you first hear something, then you start to notice it. Now I'm seeing the word banger. Everywhere I look, every song's a banger. This is apparently one of them. I hate the term banger, but that's what it's called. I guess it's that 4 on the floor dancey beat that qualifies it as a banger. I don't know. Yeah, I like the montage idea. This is a montage song to me. And yeah, it belongs in an 80s film somewhere, so good observation. I got tired of this, though. After that nostalgia itch was scratched, I found myself getting weary of this pretty quickly. Like it felt like a novelty that wore off pretty fast. And maybe it's because I wasn't listening to it in the right place, which would be 1 a.m. on the dance floor at a party, in which case, bring it on. But this became a skip song for me. When it came on, I found myself saying, oh, just not in the mood or something. I don't know. And maybe it's a song that needs a certain mood and a time and a place to fully enjoy it. Not a bad song, but not one that I found myself coming back to or wanting to hear. Any response to that before I move on to Pro Memoria?
No, other than the feeling you had with this song, I'll express with the next one.
Okay. What do you want to lead into Pro Memoria? I'm happy for you to take it off.
All right, well, I can do that. It was the next song. That exact moment that you just described that you had with Dance Macabre is what I had with Pro Memoria, where I was just like, right. I don't know about this one. I said, I think in the last podcast that I had sort of started to come around because of Ghost to theatrics in my metal. I'm out on this one. It was, and I had this whole thing. I mean, the whole thing just reminded me of Meatloaf, and we just lost Jim Steinham. So I'll walk away from this, but it reminded me of Meatloaf, and I don't want to be reminded of Meatloaf.
Yeah, unless it's the food.
Not even the food. I have.
You haven't had the Italian version.
No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. But from where I stand right now, I have no need for Meatloaf, regardless.
It does have a symphonic opening. I can see that. I quite like the start to this. It's very cinematic, quite beautiful. This again, a different review pointed out the link with that Eagles song that I mentioned before, the Journey of the Sorcerer. This not so much. There's no synth here.
See, I don't like the Eagles either.
Sound. Yeah. Well, I think you'd like that song though. Look, I'm indifferent on this one. I didn't have the same aversion to it that perhaps you're suggesting. Certainly wasn't a high point. I mean, the lyrics are pretty obvious. We all die, right? I mean, that's part of the dance macabre. That if I had to pick a theme on this, it wouldn't be on this album in general. It wouldn't be the bubonic plague, but I think it's that dance macabre theme. So that dance macabre. What I mean by that is that was in medieval times that they embraced death as a theme. You know, they stopped being scared of it. I guess, you know, living through plagues and things, you have to deal with it in some way, and they start having these dances where they dress up as corpses, and you know, the idea that everyone dies. You know, don't you forget about death? Don't you forget about dying? So yeah, we see death celebrated in Mexican culture, and more recently we've seen the rise of this Santa Muerte, the sort of variation of Mother Mary, but with a skull that's become a more recent, almost like a religion or a cult at very least. So death is something that, you know, throughout history humans have celebrated, and there's something, you know, we like to be reminded about the fact that we're going to die. I guess in a way it's a kind of uniting thing, and that's what the Dance Macabre was about. You know, the Pope's going to die, the poorest person's going to die, the richest person's going to die. We're all going to end up in the same place, and I think that's what this song's about. And if anything, I think it's what this album's about. The next song, Which Image? Let me take this away. Some of my random thoughts on this. We've got a tambourine shakery thing. So again, some of those interesting percussion elements. This is the one where the bass lines really stood out. Mm-hmm. Some great bass lines for this song. This chorus stuck with me. It's a big chorus and very catchy. While you sleep in earthly delight. I was singing this while I was doing the dishes before. So yeah, it's obviously one that stayed in my brain. You know, it's hooked in there somewhere. It's a short song, only 3.5 minutes. It has its moments, and the catchiness, I guess, is a testament to that. It's starting to feel, though, like a little bit of a flat spot on the album, and that was what I was hoping we'd gotten past. So with Pro Memoria and now this one, I'm starting to, you know, it's always this sort of into the second side that up until Meliora, where things started to drop away, and my feeling is that things are dropping away a little bit at this point. I don't know what you think about Which Image.
I liked it. It brought me back, right? Pro Memoria lost me. Which Image brought me back. It sort of blends the synth with the guitar again, as we've been doing. It has, as you mentioned, that soaring melody with the doubled vocals on the chorus. The verse quiets down and sort of allows the clean guitars to come in, kind of underpinning the vocals. So yeah, I like it for being kind of the meat in the Pro Memoria melody sandwich of tracks 7 and 9. But yeah, no, it's an all right song. I don't not like it. It's not one of my favorites.
All right. What do you think about the instrumental that follows? And you're our resident Swedish expert, so you can talk about the meaning of it, of the song title.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Helvetes Fonster.
Fortunately, I'm looking at that same page, and it tells me that it translates from Swedish as hell window.
There you go.
It seems to be picking up on so. There is a bit of a musical theme that's playing out in this album, and I think it's very subtle, but I think it kind of dominates Pro Memoria and it dominates this track, and there is definite similar melody.
Yes, for sure. I made the same comment. The vocals, no, 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 no. That it mirrors the vocals in Pro Memoria. I agree.
Right. And so, yeah, no, that was, I will say this also about I feel like the instrumentals on the previous albums were sort of bridges to something. These feel like they serve a purpose. I'm not entirely sure what that purpose is, but Miasma and this one, they're songs, right? I mean, I feel like they're songs in their own right. They're not serving as sort of a link from one track to the next, as I felt the instrumentals did on the last albums.
So my thoughts, firstly, there are 3 distinct movements in this song. So it's almost 3 different songs. Now, in previous albums, they have experimented at times with time signatures. So they've called it waltzes, but in my mind have been 12/8 or 6/8. This is something like that. It's either 6/8 or 3/4. The classic 6/8 song throughout history is Green Sleeves. And this felt very Green Sleevesy to me. The panpipe and piano, it had a very medieval folk song feel to it.
See, look at you bringing it back to Mannheim Steamroller's Christmas album.
There you go. Well, again, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I will soon. In the second movement, we get that 80s synth back big time. My favorite part of this particular instrumental, though, is the third movement. It's an extended outro, guitar, piano, synth, and a kind of howling wind in the background sound. But this is it's quite repetitive, very beautiful, almost hypnotic, a really nice, peaceful moment in the album, I thought. So I really liked the end of this song. The rest of it was okay too. And yeah, they had to get the non-4/4 song in, I get that. And it had a medieval feel, I guess, which again fits in with a lot of the themes on the album. Not terrible. And it's not something that I'm going to come back to again and again, but didn't mind it, especially the last minute or so of the song's great. The final song on the album is called Life Eternal. So we get some church bells at the end of Helvetisfonster that lead then into this one. I always like a bell. I've mentioned my penchant for chiming bells previously. So we get some church bells. And we've got another ballad here. So how many ballads are we up to on this album? Two or 3, but quite ballad heavy, really symphonic feel to this. I think Tobias has had a much more forward role in the songwriting process. I know he's got a lot of collaborators, but I think his songwriting is dominated this album certainly more than the last one. I also think he's starting to see himself in a very, very high company as a songwriter. I think there's an Elton John. I think he has Elton John aspirations, put it that way. I'm not sure he's on that level though. But yeah, I can sort of hear a bit of Elton John in some of the things that he tries to do, and particularly when he's writing the ballads. Our old friend, the Egg Shaker, is back on this song. My 1-year-old daughter's first musical instrument, hopefully not the last. Quite short for a ballad, only 3 minutes 30. The other albums had some really big songs to finish. You think of Monstrance Clock, what an album closer that was. To me, Life Eternal was okay, but just a little bit underwhelming. When you get to the end of a Ghost album, you're expecting something big, and I don't quite feel we got that here. I don't know what you think though.
So the song is another one of the songs that my first listen, I was all right, but it's grown on me, and it definitely feels like it could be an 80s hair metal ballad. And as I was thinking that and listening to it, I'm like, but if this had been an 80s hair metal ballad, this would be, I think personally, top five right. 80s hair metal ballad of all time.
Wow.
I'm throwing it up there. I mean, Home Sweet Home is above it. Don't Close Your Eyes by Kix. That would be above it. Maybe, what was it, Angel Eyes by Steelheart? But this one's coming pretty closely thereafter.
Wow. So you like it?
I like it. And it ends on that call and response with the choir. I kind of like that too.
Okay. Well, we're done. The track by track is finished. Woo! And to this point, we're done with Ghost because this is, at this point in time, the last album they released. We're expecting a new one at some point in this year. We're recording in early May 2021. I think there'll be one in the second half of 2021. But for now, we are done. So let's summarize our thoughts on this album. Your favorite song, you know mine. Faith?
Yeah. Mine, I mean, I'm still torn between Faith and See the Light, and I guess, I mean, you already laid claim to Faith, so I'll give See the Light. It's due.
You go with the power ballad.
I'll go with the power ballad.
All right. Overall thoughts on the album?
It grew on me. It's not my favorite Ghost album.
What's your favorite Ghost album?
You know, I think honestly, I know what yours is, and I think mine's Meliora.
Yeah, mine's Meliora too.
Oh, is it? I thought yours was Infesticissimum.
I thought yours was Infesticissimum.
Oh, well, look at us. Look at us.
Yeah, Meliora to me, there was I didn't like the first one. I thought, I don't know what all the fuss, I still don't know what all the fuss is about. That was a sort of 5 or 6 out of 10. Infestissimum, 7 or 8. Meliora's a clear 9 or 10, and now I think we've dropped back down to around a 7 maybe on this one. I think those lineup changes did have an effect. I think Tobias needed a little bit of Persner just to pull him back at times and just to guide him towards where the band is, I think, strongest, which is in those Faith style. And, you know, think about a song like Majesty off the previous album, some of the real stompers that I've loved. You know, there's room for a ballad or two, and they do them well at times, but I think it was a little bit overdone on this album, and it just sort of lost me towards on side 2. Side 1 of this album was great. Side 2 just tailed off a bit for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. So does that bring us to Ban Brownlow?
Yeah. Woo! As always, I've given no thought to this, so I've got to hurriedly gather my thoughts. Have you got any thoughts?
I put it together while we were doing this, but I've got it together, so I can start it.
Yeah, you do us. You lead us off.
All right. So
with your one vote, your third best, and
my third best, my one vote. I had mentioned that I was gonna have to give the piano some love, and so there's your Elton John.
Yep.
I'm putting the piano there.
Yeah.
My 2, I'm gonna give it to the vocals. I like the effects on the vocals. I like the sounds on the vocals. My 3, you cannot have a power ballad without a soaring guitar.
Right.
Not just a guitar, the soaring guitar. And the soaring guitar delivers multiple times on this album. So I'm giving it that.
Agreed. Yeah, really nice guitar tone, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think Delgetti's a good guitar producer. Having said that, the guitar doesn't feature in my top 3. My one vote goes to the bass. I like the fact that you can always pick out the bass. I love that. So that's a sign of a good mixer and a good producer that the bass is clear without dominating. But at times, you know, there's some really nice bass lines throughout. I'm giving 2 to the vocals. And again, it's not just Tobias, but it's the effects that are added to him, the sort of self-harmonizing effects at times. There's some choir and things that come in at different times on the album too. I'll put them all under the heading of vocals and give them 2 votes. And speaking of putting things, I'd love to give it to just the Egg Shaker. 3 votes to the Egg Shaker. But let's just call it percussion generally, because I really think there's some interesting stuff going on in the percussion section, not just the drum kit, but, you know, the bringing a tambourine here, an egg shaker there, and I think it adds a lot of interest to the album. And there are some really, like, I think of Rats, you know, sorry, I should pronounce that correctly, Rats, as a really percussion-driven song, and there's a couple of those. My favorite songs on the album are percussion-driven song, so I'll give the 3 votes to the percussion for what it's worth. If anyone cares.
So, can I announce the winner?
Please, overall or just for the album?
No, for overall.
Okay.
I mean, because we who knows when we'll get the next one.
Yeah. All right.
So our overall winner is the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I needed to build up the suspense. I should have started with the number 3. Anyway, the overall winner is the vocals, and then the guitar.
Yep.
And then the bass.
Yeah. Okay. And the egg shaker.
The egg shaker. Egg shaker did not make an appearance until this particular has not gotten a single vote. In fact, the choir has gotten more votes than the egg shaker.
Okay. And the what was the other one? The timpani. Timpani's not on the list.
Tiffany's not on the list.
All right. Wondering where they're going to go with the next album before we wind things up.
I was wondering that too when you had mentioned the progression from 70s to 80s, and I thought, well, surely we've got a grunge 90s album coming.
Yeah, with the next Pope's wearing a flannel.
And they can keep Tom too because he's done the Pixies.
Yeah, yep. Papa, what emeritus are we up to? Emeritus the 4th in his combat boots with the laces undone.
It is Doc Martens. Flannel around his waist, one of those what are those, like those thermal underwear shirts?
Yeah. It'll be they'll do an MTV Unplugged version.
See? It's going to be amazing.
Recorded in Seattle. I can't wait. I think we're done with Ghost. What are your thoughts overall? Have you enjoyed it?
I have. Yeah. No, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, me too.
I am glad we did this.
Yep.
I'm glad I know this band, and I can definitely see where Meliora is going to be in my regular rotation, and I think I really like that live album.
Yep.
It sounds maybe like it was a little bit, doctored in post production, but that's all right. I do like that album, and I could see where I'll pick up tracks here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm happy to add this band to my list of bands that I know. I'm not going to be running around town wearing a Ghost T-shirt. I do find a lot of aspects of this band to be silly. That whole, the whole story thing, and I think the live. I don't particularly find myself drawn to Tobias Forge as a human being. I can't really relate to the guy. I don't like the fact that he's sort of subordinated the rest of the band, and then he seems to not be a particularly nice person. Although I guess plenty of artists musical artists that I've liked throughout the years aren't particularly nice human beings. But if you just strip away all that, the music has at times been superb, and I can't deny that. I think, you see this band as the greatest band of the decade and all this sort of stuff. I think that stuff's a little bit overblown. I think you have to listen to them to make your own judgment. And I can understand why people would say that, but I'm not in the greatest band of all time camp. But equally, I'm not in the I hate this band, Ghosts suck, which a lot of people are. They seem to be one of those bands where you have a strong opinion one way or the other. And I'm one of the people that don't. I really like the music a lot of the times. A lot of that's to do with just the production, I think, and the fact that they've hit the big time and they've got this beautiful sound on their albums. I think Tobias is a very good songwriter at times who sometimes oversteps the mark, but when he hits it, the best 3 or 4 songs on each album are really good, and they'll be songs that I come back to again and again throughout the rest of my life. Yeah,
agree. Well said.
Well, Well, so where are we going next? Just so that our listeners know what to listen to next. We were slated to listen to a band called Abrams. We had also mentioned Baby Metal as a possibility. Can we just, for the record, say that we've both had a quick listen to Baby Metal and decided not to go down that path? So if you're wondering if we're ever going to cover Baby Metal, the answer is no. Abrams is coming up, but one of the bands, and this has happened, not the first time it's happened, but one of the bands that we've already covered in detail, Gojira, has, in the last week or two, released a new album. So that's going to be the one we cover next, right?
Yeah. And I'm stoked. I'm so ready for this.
I'm really excited, yeah. Especially, it's always the way, no matter how good the band is, you get to the end and you think, I'm ready for something else. It was even that way when we got to the end of Gojira. But yeah, really excited to listen to this one. It's been out a couple of weeks, so our listeners have had a chance to listen to it themselves.
Is this their 7th album or 8th?
7th, I think, yeah.
Okay.
It's getting great, press already. There's huge ratings on this, and they've hit the big time. This band. It sounds like this album has not disappointed the fans. So anyway, we'll find out over the next couple of weeks. But I've got the CD coming, and I'm looking forward to putting it on when I get it. Can't wait. And then we'll go with Abrams after that, and then choose our next band after we get through the Abrams albums.
Yeah, no, this is we got a nice stretch ahead of us.
Thank you for sticking with us, listeners. This has been Unshuffled. You can find all the show notes from this episode, as well as our previous episodes, previous show notes, all the rest on our website, unshuffledpod.com. We are online. We have social media presence at unshuffledpod on Twitter, and we have an email address, unshuffledpod@gmail.com. So yes, please feel free to contact us through Twitter, through our email, and check out our website, of course. Thank you to Small Stone, great record label. Go to their website. There's a heap of their bands. There's a heap of Small Stone bands on Bandcamp. The one you should check out in particular is Seven Planets, who provide the opening and closing music in our podcast. Their album is called Explorer, and the track you hear is called Vanguard. Great album, well worth a listen, and check out their other music while you're there as well. And check out Small Stone, great label. Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ghost. Thank you, Tobias. I've said some arguably not very nice things about you, Tobias, over the last four episodes, but I must thank you sincerely for providing some real highlights to my day. Some of the songs you have written have really made my day, and I think of Faith off this album, one of my favorite metal songs that not only Ghost produced, I think it's gone down in history as one of my favorite metal stompers of all time. So thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Nameless Ghouls. You might be nameless, but your place in history is assured. And thank you, Scott, for discussing each of these albums with me.
Well, thank you, Matt, and I thank the Nameless Ghouls both on the Ghost album and the Nameless listeners, and out there in podcast listening land. No, this has been great. This has been fun. I'm ready. I am looking forward to, kind of moving on as we always are when we get to this point. But this was well worth it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, agreed. Bye, listeners.
Thank you.